Hey there everybody, Mark Bates here, and I want to show you how to use Grift tasks, particularly inside of Buffalo. So Grift tasks are very simple little scripts that we can write in Go, and then be able to run them as if they were kind of, binaries themselves or main functions, but without having to write all of that kind of code. So a great example of this would be a seed task for a database. So here I have a Buffalo app running, and if we see, it's got some users here. So let's create a little seed task that actually puts some users in our database by default. So you can see here inside this Buffalo project, there is a Grifts folder, and this is where all my Grift tasks are going to run. And so when I generate a new Buffalo app, it's going to automatically kind of create this db seed Grift task for me here. And it's very simple. It's got a name, which is db:/seed, and it has a context, which allows me to get some information such as maybe arguments passed to the task. And when we go to, if we want to run multiple tasks inside of a task, as we'll see in a minute, we can use this context to kind of pass information back and forth. So let's start very simple here. So this is our db seed task. Now what's nice is we have the full power of Go inside of these tasks, including access to our own packages. So let's we want to create a new user here. So we'll say models user. User has a name. So we'll say Mark Bates. And an email. So mark@example.com here. Great, we have our model package. Now all we need to do is do something with our model. So we'll do models db create, and we'll give it our model, and for right now we'll return the error. Very simple. So how do we run this? Well, in a command line, we can use the Buffalo task command here. As you can see, it's very simple. All it takes is basically the name of the task we want to run. So in this case, Buffalo db seed. There we go. Now it says it inserted into users. So let's go and look at our application, and look at that. We have a user already inserted into our applications. That is as simple as it gets. Grift tasks are great at this sort of kind of repetitive task. You know, maybe you want to suck in a CSV file and do something with it. Do things like create seeds. We also generate a very simple routes task here. So as you can see in this task, this is generated with every new Buffalo app, kind of as an example of how to use Grift tasks. We just print off the routes. So again, if I do Buffalo T routes, you see it's going to run and show me all of the routes inside of my application. So let's say now we want to add a second model to our second resource, rather, to our application. So let's add, I don't know, pets. It seems like a good thing as any. Pets have a name, and they have a, I don't know, they have eye color. Doesn't matter. We'll just say name. That's good enough. So we'll generate that. We will migrate our database. And if we go to that endpoint, slash pets, we see we don't have any pets. So let's go back to our seed task here. And I'm going to break this up now into a couple different different tasks here. So we'll call this db seed users. And we can change this to just return. We don't need all that. And we'll create another one here called pets. And we'll change this to pets. And pets have a name. And this pet's name will be Ringo. Because why not? So now we have a task to run users. We have a task to run pets. What about we create a task that does both? So we'll kind of just call this here. We'll just call this one db seed. Like this. So how do we do that? Well, it's very simple. We can run Grift run, and then give it the name of the task we want to run. In this case, users. And we'll give it our context. And if there's any error, well, we'll return the error. If there's not, let's run our db seed pets task. And again, give it the context here. And again, we'll run it. And we'll just return nil here at the end. So now we have this kind of super task that will do all this stuff here. So if we run task db seed, now you can see it insert into users, insert into pets. We could prove that. There's Ringo. And let's go back and look at users here. But, oh no, we have two Mark Bates users in our database here. So that's not cool. So how could we solve that? Well, we could maybe run some sort of a deletion task in here. There's all sorts of different ways we can kind of do that. But you kind of get the idea of what we can do here. Like I said, we should, probably truncate all of them. So let's do that here. Just for completion, truncate all. Here we go. Again, any errors like that. Let's run it now. There we go. Hopefully it truncated everything. We only have one Mark Bates user. Pets, fantastic. This is really coming together now. The last thing I want to do now, though, is I want to perhaps use, instead of DB here and doing it correct, doing it kind of straight up, I want to use a transaction. So let's figure out how we can do that. So we will, down here, let's create a new transaction. Models, DB, transaction. And, my bad. There we go. And that takes a function that gives us back a pop connection transaction. And that's expecting an error, so we can just return that now. So now inside of here, we can copy all the stuff we're doing here and paste that into there. And instead of using models.db, we can say tx now. So that's good there, but how are we going to get that transaction to our other tasks? Well, we can add it to this context here. So we'll set it as tx. And now in our tasks, what we can do is we can say, we'll create a new variable called called db, which is of type pop connection. Actually, we can just set this directly to models db, like that. And then we could say if, say, call it d or tx rather, tx tx does not equal nil, and we say db equals tx, and no, that should be db, and that is a pop connection. And we'll just copy all this down here. Now this probably isn't the cleanest way to do this, but it is a way to do it. So now if we run our task again, everything should work, and it should work inside of a transaction. Fabulous, and there's Ringo. And we can prove this by changing Ringo to George. And let's raise some sort of an error here. So instead of doing all this, we'll just comment this out, and we will return errors.new boom. So when we run our task here, of course that's not being used. There we go. So we got an error. And if we look, see we still have Ringo because our transaction was rolled back. And we should still have Mark Bates because, again, our transaction was rolled back. So there you go. There is a brief look at using Grift tasks inside of Buffalo and kind of just in general. They're not particular to Buffalo here, but in this case, I'm using them inside of a Buffalo app. You can use them in any Go project you want. And there's more to it than what I'm showing you right now, but again, this is a very quick overview of Grift tasks. So that's it for now. Thank you very much. This video was brought to you by Gopher Guides. If you're an organization, conference, or user group that is looking for Go training, please visit gopherguides.com. All training is custom designed to match your educational needs.